Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dadlit Pod.
Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for people who would not get into Femlandia. Today, I'm joined by author Christina Dalcher, author and of Femlandia, which we're going to talk about. Christina's a writer, reader, novelist, and flash fiction addict. She's a knitter, cross-stitcher, cook, and wife. She's lived on 4 continents and 4 islands. She speaks Italian with a hint of Florentine and Spanish, which I imagine is pretty good because she's coming to us from Spain. Her heroes are Stephen King, Roald Dahl, and Carl Sagan. She's also the creator of Vox, a novel uh, for which I have no genre yet, according to her. But if you can imagine Ira Levin's The Stepford Wives mashed with Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale with a sprinkle of neurolinguistics, you'd be right on track. She's also more recently the author of Femlandia, which we're going to talk about today, and also The Sentence, which features a dad on death row, which we're also going to talk about. Christina, thank you for coming on the pod from across the pond and
The pot
joining.
pond.
Yes.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me. It's always a lot of fun to talk about books with new people.
Yeah, I was introduced to you on Twitter by no nonsense Kristen McTiernan,
Oh, right.
who is clearly a big fan of yours, and I've been following you on Twitter, and you're a bit of a wild woman, and I like that, and it it delights me, and and then I just
With you.
and then I discovered your book Femlandia, which, for those who don't know, is a post-apocalyptic book about a community made up entirely of women
That's
in
it.
this sort of in the style of Herland, but more critical.
Definitely. Her land was paradise, really, when you
Yes.
compared to Femlandia. And yeah, it's all female, and that means female. Uh, just in case anybody's wondering what the definition of that word is. So and it's kind of interesting because it's not a paradise at all. It's
Yes. Well, what inspired you? I became interested in this book because, of course, it's a land without dads, which is interesting for a podcast about dads and dads in literature.
right. So it's especially interesting because so the setup, just for your listeners, if they don't know the context, what's happened is America has gone down the tubes, the biggest financial crisis ever. Think pension fund crisis, right? So I mean, things just go to hell in a handbasket in really quickly, and we've got
Mhm.
a mother and a daughter who need to go somewhere. I mean, and we'll think about this. There's no water anymore. There's no electric anymore. Cash is useless. I mean, there are lines at the supermarkets for things that aren't really even in stock. I mean, this is what a financial meltdown looks like. So they need to go somewhere, and the only place the mother can think of is this commune that had been started by her own mother
Yes.
a long time ago, and her mother was a rabid feminist. I mean, kind of a man-hating feminists, and there are reasons. The book, goes in. These characters are not completely flat, so but so that's the context, and then most of the book actually takes place is within the walls and electric fences of Femlandia, where they demand, as many communes do and many cults do, they demand obedience and playing by the rules, and of course no men, and no man includes no males. It includes no little boys who are starving, and on the brink of death or wounded, who are outside the gates. That's what no men means in this place. There's no sympathy. The interesting thing about Finlandia is that women, despite the fact that there aren't any men, women are having babies,
Mm-hmm.
and all the babies are girls. And that's kind of interesting too. So this I can't really say a lot more because I don't want to give some
Yeah.
spoilers away. But it's horrible. I mean, I can't believe I wrote this, and I actually wrote it thinking of it as a horror story more than anything else, right? So not a dystopian thriller or anything, or chick lit, but it was an attempt at horror because the stuff that's going on is just it's just so bad.
So, what inspired you to effectively write a book about women with absolute power and authority?
That's easy. So if you know anything about Ibsen, the playwright
Hmm.
who wrote The Doll's House, or A Doll's House, A Doll's House, in which a woman leaves her husband at the end of the play in a culture where that was really frowned upon, and so it faced a lot of criticism,
Yeah.
and I always thought it was kind of funny that he wrote another play called Ghosts, and that's about a woman who stays in a marriage that she shouldn't stay in. So I've always thought of the play Ghosts
Yeah.
as a direct response to the critics of A Doll's House saying, "Oh, really? You wanted her to stay? Here you go. All right, see what happens." So back to Finlandia. Well, what was the response with Vox? When Vox was published. Now remember, Vox was published during that very heated Me Too movement,
Yeah.
right? Where, all women, okay, all women great, all men bad, all women right, all men wrong.
Well, I think if I had a concern during it, it was uh by default true, right? With
Well,
with
but
so no matter what you said, it's true. But in a justice system as we conceive it in the United States, and I'm the son of a criminal defense lawyer.
so you know about a thing called due process.
Yes, I know about due process. And I also don't recognize communal crime. I recognize individual crime. And so to my mind, this idea of prosecuting a person in the eyes of the media or in sort of a popular perspective now is
Right. We
very
call them kangaroo courts.
concerning. Yeah,
Yes, we call them kangaroo courts, and
yeah,
they should be concerning because a lot of these decisions are made before anything even enters a courtroom. And of course, like it or not, the fact is that there was the Me Too movement eschewed due process.
yes.
Um, I mean, not all of it, obviously. I don't think it started out that way. I don't think that was the intention, but there was a culture there in 2017. Um, and yeah, and because Me Too happened in October 2017. That's when it really started. So there was a culture in, in the ensuing year or two. And remember, this was when Weinstein was happening. There were, more stuff was going on. Oh, Woody Allen's memoir was coming out.
Hmm.
I think in April of 18 or April of 19, I can't remember which. And Ronan Farrow, who of course wrote the To Catch a Killer about Weinstein, we were threatened to pull his book from Hachette if they went ahead, even in a different imprint, and published Woody Allen's
Yeah.
memoir. I mean, it was a week before publication. They pulped it. They had
Hmm.
gone to print. They pulped the whole thing. And there were all these walkouts, these junior editorial assistants. And at that time, even though the Woody Allen case had been ages ago and there had been investigations, we still had people saying unequivocally, it doesn't matter whether he was investigated or not. I believe the woman.
Yes.
And I'm not the daughter of a criminal lawyer. I'm the daughter of a furniture salesman. But 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 I'm married to a lawyer, and the thing is that I just can't abide by that kind of thinking.
Hmm.
This idea that, well, of course I believe the woman. I mean, that's horrible. I mean, I'm not saying that the alternative, I don't believe the woman, is good, but we can't believe people based on their sex or their chromosomes. We have
Yeah.
to believe people or not believe people based on the evidence put before us. And
Yeah.
so when Vox came out, I mean, it was very much touted as a Me Too movement book. And I was reading, reviews, like, people, there were women saying, this book makes me want to go out and punch a man.
Hmm.
And I
Well, Femlandia makes me want to go out and punch a man too. But just but anyway, yeah, keep going, keep going. Sorry.
It did not make me want to go out and punch a man. It
Yeah.
made me want to go out and punch somebody else, but
Yeah.
not a guy. So Femlandia was my kind of um, tongue-in-cheek, you asked for it, you got it answer to all of those women who said, God, I hate men. I just wanted to go out and punch a man. And also there was a lot of misandry going on at the time as well. I think even in the front matter, there's a quote by, I can't remember her name, the one who said, I'm not a cute misandrist. I'm just a misandrist.
Yeah.
And then there were a few other things. So if you look at the afterword or the back matter or the dedication or whatever it is, I actually say in that, hey, this is for all of you who wanted a world without men.
Hmm.
I'm giving it to you. How do you like it? So I just took an idea, I mean, and pushed it to an extreme, and which is kind of what I do with all my books, whether they're the published ones or the ones that I have in the trunk that I probably won't publish.
Hmm.
The MO is always the same. It's like, take this little tiny idea and then expand it and see where it might go if it were allowed to, because the one true thing that I believe and I know is that all movements go too far.
Hmm.
They I cannot think of one that has not gone. And they become demanding. They require obeisance. They become exclusive. They split. I mean, this is how we've seen this in the gender critical movement, right? It was one great big wonderful mass of like-minded people all fighting for the same cause. And whether you agree with that cause or not is neither here nor there. It's just a recent example of a group that appeared to be of like-minded people because they had a common cause. And then what we find out is they're not like-minded at all, because very few people are. And and when if you're talking about a center right or libertarian leaning person from the States, she's not gonna have a lot of overlap with a labor voting Brit.
Mm-hmm.
For not just because of the left and right thing, but also the cultures are different. So so I think that that's really where I wanted to go. I wanted to show people that you really got to lighten up and not take things to extremes, because it's not going to end well. And
So the to a certain extent, what would you say? Because you've created a world or a book about the sort of extreme result of a society without men, which is similar, which is obviously what Herland did, right? Similarly, what did men bring to the world in your vision that would
I'm
be
sorry.
missing? So what do men bring to the world that would be missing if women retreated to their own Femlandias?
Well, yeah, sperm, which really make a thing. Sorry to get biological, but it's just true. You kind of need that. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you want to go the route of the Shakers. So yeah, so that's a great big thing. I also think that, I mean, now it probably matters. Physical strength matters, I think, less than it used to,
Mhm.
right? Once upon a time, we didn't have electric fences and stun guns or firearms ball or tasers, or we just didn't. We had clubs and really big animals and stuff, and bows and arrows. And if you've ever tried to shoot a bow, I mean, it requires some major upper body strength, if you're going to deal with a heavy bow. So there are all kinds of, and so I think that's one of it. One of the biggest things is that physical strength. Um, and I'm not even going to say it doesn't matter anymore, just because, well, we have firearms and all kinds of other ways that to protect ourselves that don't require that kind of physical prowess. But I still think it helps. I really do. I mean, there's stuff to be done. I just lugged a 60-pound flat pack of IKEA. I mean, off the shelf, onto the cart, off the cart, into the car, out of the car. That mother was heavy.
I'll just clarify because we're not on video. Christina is rather small. So
118 pounds soaking wet. This is half of my body, and it's heavy and it's awkward. And I'm like, God damn it, where's a man when you need him? And this sounds, I know a lot of women will scoff at this, and it's reminiscent of that ending scene that, who's the guy, Matt Walsh did, What is a Woman, where his wife asks him, oh, I need you to open this pickle jar for me. And that's, sometimes we do need a little bit of strength. Maybe not for pickle jars, but it certainly makes things easier. And when you're trying to live in a self-sufficient sort of a commune, then I think it's really nice to have people around who don't get as tired as quickly, right? Who have a little bit of brute force. So I think there's that. I generally think that, and I know that people are not going to like this, so sorry, ladies. I think women and men are different. I don't think one's better than the other. I'm not going to pick sides or anything. I mean, I like me. It's nice. I think I'm a lot less woman-like than most of the women I know. I swear like a sailor. I shoot expert. I'm not really, and the only thing I'm afraid of is vampires. And that's because my mother let me watch all those vampire movies when I was like 5. So it just kind of, sunk in there. But otherwise I'm kind of fearless. And I'm generally not very emotional. I don't like weep. I don't want to read Chicklet. I don't want to watch Lost. Just give me an adventure story, give me horror, give me, and so I think a lot of the stuff that I do is makes me more male like than
Mhm.
many women. Even though I love to wear dresses and makeup and all that stuff, right? But I think I'm kind of a tough chick. Um, that's me. I also think I'm an anomaly. I know women who are more like me. I know women who don't want to get their hair wet or they don't want to break a fingernail. And I mean that's not all of them, and of course we all are individuals at the end of it. But when we think about men and women and what men bring to the world and what women bring to the world, I I think it's pretty hardwired into it's wired into us evolutionarily that um, men may be a little bit more no nonsense and a little bit more get up and get, and women may be a little bit more now there dear, and because it made sense to be that way once upon a
Mhm.
time. So yeah, and I can see my follower count on X going. I mean, really, it's like going down, 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 down. Yeah. So,
Well,
um,
I was thinking about it because ultimately a big part of the Dad Lit Pod is talking about what it means to be a dad and how dads sort of exist in literature, but also what do dads do now and why are they their own thing and why do they exist as within the realm of contemporary society, because we have kind of this situation where, as you brought up, in the information economy, in the technical economy, the sort of vision of men as necessary for rugged and dangerous jobs, although men do the vast majority of rugged and dangerous jobs, um, has gone down. Um, the As you pointed out, sperm can be extracted and utilized in female only families, right? Lesbian couples are capable of doing that, and they raise children.
sure. And I know some who do a great job at it.
Yes, they as do I. So to that extent, the question of what do dads bring and what is the importance of a dad and what would be missing if they were gone. And this comes up a lot in my house. My wife and I talk about it because we're part of that generation that I think our parents, I can't imagine our parents talked about child rearing in like maybe 0.2% of what me and my wife talk about from an issue of systematic child rearing. And so we talk about what do we bring as individuals to raising our daughter. And um and I took a little evolutionary bio, and evolutionary psych because I wanted to be a teacher. That didn't happen. But you have to take a little, child development. And obviously, one of the things within child development is fairness, right? Socialization, play, modeling. And to that extent, I find that um, dads are more prone to roughhousing.
Mhm.
And within that framework, roughhousing particularly is the method by which children learn their strength and their physical interactions with other people, but also a sense of fairness and the ability to sort of engage and recognize what's threatening versus what's not threatening, and to extend their um, we would call it a pain threshold, but it's really a safety threshold.
We see dogs do that all the time,
Yeah,
right?
dogs. Yeah, this is a perfect
Know one
example.
another, and they're kind of feeling each other, especially when they first meet. They're feeling each other out, and they might nip a little bit, but they're not
Mhm.
really nip. I'm not talking about dog attacks. I'm talking about like dog play. That's a
Yeah.
little bit more than just play.
Yeah,
Um,
of course. And dogs also have a honed sense of fairness, which is from an evolutionary perspective, very important. And one of the things that has come up a lot is modeling reading by fathers, particularly on sons. That fathers who read and read in front of their children tend to have children who read a lot.
and not
And
and not the same with mothers who read in front of their children. Have you seen that?
that it it has less of an influence,
That's
which
really
yes, which points to the father's role within the household as a modeling role, right? So obviously the mother provides unconditional love and security and all those things, and she of course models behavior. But it's clearly demonstrated that dads and father modeling has a socializing effect and development around values.
right. So what you're saying is that we may have different behaviors that are more effectively modeled by a
Yeah.
mom, and some that are more effectively modeled by the dad.
Yes. Well, that
That, yeah,
with we have uh, uh
and then more
intrinsically.
modeled. Not
Yeah, yeah. This is like the challenge I think that we all have, which is interesting because you wrote this book, is that people get really wound up about this, but and they'll say, well, socialization and power structures and all that other stuff. At the same time, the science around it is trying to discern what is innate from a male to female perspective versus what is socialized and how those weigh on each other. And I think that to some extent, um, the current discourse has shut down that exploration in literature and is preventing us from having like honest conversations about it as a society. And one of the effects of that is that dads don't actually know what their essential role in the house is.
right, because if everybody's exactly the same and everybody can do anything that the other person can, then why do we need a mom and a dad? And it's interesting, and of course we also see we see
Yeah.
really successful female couples raising kids. It's interesting, and again, I hope people don't hate me for this, but one of them always seems to be more dad like,
Mm.
and one of them always seems to be more mom like. I know two or three such couples with kids, and I think that, the dynamics and relationships, even, are very strange. If you look at all the married people, sometimes it's not even the case that the guy is always guy-like and the woman is always, being gal-like.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's actually different, right? But there is this, like, I don't know. I mean, there's like this power, kind of a balance of power. Like, some people are, sometimes the woman in let's say a traditional family, just, heterosexual, is more powerful in certain regards, and sometimes the man is more powerful in certain regards. And it's
Yeah.
really, it's very interesting because, and it's also, I'm not sure even that I even can imagine some of the stuff you're talking about and some of the things that you might be concerned, or that your listeners might be concerned about, because I'm a lot older. I mean, I'm a lot. I am the very beginning of Gen X, right? So,
Mhm.
child of the '60s, and the fact is that I grew up with, dads mowed the lawn and dads took out the trash. My dad also washed the dishes,
Mhm.
which is great. I mean, my mom would cook and dad always washed the dishes. So, which I thought was really great. My husband does that. My brother-in-law does that. My grandparents did that. I also grew up in, my grandmother did all the financial stuff. My mother did all the financial stuff. In my first marriage, I did all the financial stuff. I don't do it now because I started writing, and it's boring. And I mean, I used to love accounting, and now I don't, right? So, but that's kind of different too, right? I've I mean, I grew up in an environment where, with pretty conservative grandparents and parents, and yet the men always had to go to their wives and ask them for money. Like, because, my dad would hand over his paycheck every Friday. My mom would, go, on, Monday morning or Tuesday morning. She would go to the bank. She would take out, what, $75, for the week, in cash. We'd go grocery shopping, and that was it. And if he needed $5 for something, he had to go ask her. Um, but there was a lot of trust there, and
Mhm.
so now we've got, on the one hand, we have a situation, I think, where everybody says, well, we're all equally capable, and it's kind of sexist to, presume that the man should take out the garbage. I personally love that my husband takes out the garbage. I
Yeah,
mean,
I take out the garbage at my house.
it's just, it's just nice. You know, and I don't really see it as a. I mean, I'm on my own here right now, so obviously I'm taking out my own garbage. I'm perfectly capable of doing that, but not everybody can do everything.
Mhm.
And so the husband is really cute. He's like, nope, you're not going to wash those dishes, and you're not going to take out the garbage. That's my little job. I'm supposed to be a provider, and I'm supposed to do this stuff. And it's a really traditional, sort of old fuddy-duddy way to look at things. I think would be the response of most women, I know, but I'm not complaining. I'm a traditional wife. I work hard, and it doesn't really matter which one of us does these, and it doesn't have to, as long as there's some kind of a balance.
Mhm.
We also have, like, money is fungible. With a lot of people, money is not fungible. I know a ton of married couples who have separate bank accounts, and and or they have separate bank accounts, and I mean, there's no mixing them, right?
Mhm.
So this seems really common now, and that wasn't the way I grew up either. It was, you earn the money and it goes into one pot, and there had to be, some trust there, because obviously it was one person, earning the money, but but that one person recognized that the other person who wasn't earning the money was doing all this other stuff to enable him or her, whoever it was, to earn the money. So here, have some. And things have really changed. So I'm just kind of giving you this as background because I understand what you're saying, and it's
Yeah.
possible for me to relate to it
Mhm.
because of the way I was raised, and the way I kind of, the way my marriage is now. It's interesting though. I feel kind of bad for modern day parents. I think they're not, some of them, you sound like you're doing just fine, but I've seen other ones where I don't know whether they're doing just fine. I think they're confused.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. I think that this kind of vision of families as economic units, like efficient economic units, has almost come to pervade um, my generation and the upcoming generation. And I think the perfect example of this is the suggestion that no one can afford to have kids, right? So it instead of kids as a good, as a moral good, or as uh, a sort of vision, they've developed this vision, this idea of children as like a product that costs money.
Mm.
And it's interesting because, of course, you wrote a book about children having value from a survival perspective. And in a lot of ways, particularly um, during agricultural, when you had agricultural families, that made sense. Children being sort of around to carry on the work if something happened, and maintain the uh, maintain the farm, as it were, was an
Sure.
imperative. It was beyond a moral imperative. It was perceived as a physical imperative.
It
Uh,
was. It
yeah.
was. My great grandparents were very poor farmers from Poland and Ukraine, and they had they had 8 kids. 7 of them were girls. So, but yeah, I know.
Was his name Tevya?
Exactly, right? It's like, yeah, this is mine and this is mine. Right. It's, or the Laura Ingalls Wilder thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just these poor people, they have kids, they expect them to help on the farm, and they end up with girls who obviously can do a lot of stuff, but it's a lot harder for a woman to plow a field than it is for a man. Period. The end. You can fight.
Yes.
But so you're right. There's species survival, and then there's just the day-to-day survival. Now that's really gone out the window. You don't need that. If people have, if there's anything like that left over now in our modern culture, it would be the having kids so that there's someone to take care of me when I can't take care of myself anymore.
Hmm.
Right? That would be the only, I think, analog to having kids because you need farm workers.
Yeah.
That's not a very good reason to have kids.
Well, no, this is right. The Ponzi scheme vision of having children, right? The idea, this is one of these things that my father kept saying to me. He's like, "Well, if you don't have kids, how are you going to pay for Social Security?" And then I'm like, I'm not having kids to serve a Ponzi scheme. That isn't a good reason to have them." You know what I mean? Like to make the base of the pyramid bigger. A sort of a weird, that's a weird reason to justify having children.
Oh, your
Um,
dad was saying we need to have more so that they're working so that our social security benefits will continue to be funded by this
yes.
generation. Yeah, No, I don't think that's a very good reason.
Neither did I. I looked at him like, what do I, what? So to that extent, it's just interesting. It's a thing that I see a lot. I see a lot of sort of men, and I talk to a lot of dads, obviously, and a lot of literary dads who tend to have an element of uh, romantic thought about them, right? Because they create art. And what I see, everyone goes nuts or nuts, it gets crazy about people like Andrew Tate or, people who are like, we need to get back to nature and spend more time in nature and have men who are war ready and all these other things. What I see um, is my contemporaries and the younger people wondering what it is exactly they're supposed to do. Because if you're not coding and doing the tech sphere and you're not buying into the alternative, which is that let's call it the men for Harris, the men for President Harris,
Right.
who are basically a lot of them are proponents of sort of managed decline, right? Like I'm not going to stand in the way of the success, the future is female type of thing. Um, there's a middle ground where men are like, what exactly is it I'm supposed to be doing here? Uh, and it's gotten weird and gets weird.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah,
we,
I think it does. Which is why have often overheard saying things like "beam me back to 1957." So, um, hey, it's true. Somebody actually said I would miss my microwave. I said, "What? Are you kidding?" I mean, no. I mean, give me an Impala, red over white, and and a couple of kids and a little house somewhere that's green. I'll be just fine. Really, I
yeah.
don't need the microwave. Um, so, uh, and I do view that time, which I didn't live through, as probably through rose-colored lenses. Obviously, it had its problems, but
Mhm.
if I could push a button right now and and go back there, I'd push that button.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't even think. I mean, and a lot of people wouldn't, right? A lot of women wouldn't, because the concern is that they really didn't have autonomy and stuff. But again, remember that I had this anomalous experience. These like poor kids of farmers and Italian immigrants and stonemasons, and it ended up that the husbands are doing the dishes and the women are managing the finances. I mean, that just seems odd. And I can understand that if you didn't have that sort of a family life, then you wouldn't want, and you had a mother who was not maybe not strong in the relationship, maybe not in a position of power at all.
Mhm.
Then you would not want to go back to 1957. So our family experience is going to inform whether we would make that decision. But I do think that it was a simpler time and a kinder time. And I don't even think that it was it's not about women knew their place or men knew their roles. I mean, I think I, I just don't think people worried about it as much. Like
Mhm.
you could end up having the woman doing the finances and the man doing the dishes, and nobody had to have big conversations about whether that was okay or not.
Mhm.
You see what I mean? And now everything we've complicated everything so much. Well, gee, is that okay? Does that make me weak? You know, like I don't think my dad for 1 second of his life, of when he was washing the dishes, ever thought, gee, I wonder if this makes me look weak. You know? I mean, if he did. He just went out to the range the next day and just shot stuff. I mean, not people, but like range. Um, so, so I do wonder whether there's more. And I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about it. I think you have to, because it is being talked about. It is the subject of discussion. I guess what I'm saying is I kind of wish it weren't. I kind of wish we didn't have to have a discussion about what the role of dads is and what the role of moms is. Do you know what I mean? Or wives and husbands? Because once upon a time we didn't have those discussions, and things turned out okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what happened? What happened to change that?
I don't know. I think part of it is technology, just the nature of the information age. I think that a lot of it was the sort of breakdown in interpersonal existence. So the idea that now we talk to each other through a line versus directly engage with each other in physical space. I think that a lot of it had to do with postmodern thought and the sort of reduction to the idea that nothing is actually true and nothing is actually right and everything is relative and uh and I think that th at the same time I would say about those things that if you handle them and you approach them from like maturity and responsibility
Mm,
and you don't take the movement too far as as you pointed out, you can actually have uh those things and you can have like normal relationships with other human beings.
right. Well, I have I agree with you. I think that postmodern relativism has a lot to apologize for. As does the kind of supervaluation of a college degree,
Hmm.
any college degree,
I agree with that. Yeah.
and the undervaluation of an honest work in a trade.
Hmm.
I mean, if I had a kid now, I'd just be an electrician or a plumber or really, it's or not a mechanic. I mean, these are good jobs.
Hmm.
You know, they're not thought of as good jobs anymore. Or a furniture salesman. My dad did pretty well actually, but but he was a furniture salesman,
Hmm.
and he and I think that there's so much pressure on people to get that degree. Of course, that degree is very costly too now.
Hmm.
Way more than it was when I was at university, and it was $5,000 a year. Um, seriously. So, and it wasn't that long ago either. Um,
I think
but
it was 36 when I was in.
yeah,
And then
that's insane. I mean, the university that I went to is now even for in-state, it's like 50 or 60. I mean, it's just I have no idea how people they mortgage their houses is what they do. So that happened. That was another change, right? We ended up with this idea that everybody had to be like this in the kind of the elite white collar industry because none of the other stuff was good enough. It was
Mhm.
good enough for a our dads and our grandparents and stuff, but it ceased being good enough at some point. And then, just because I'm me, I'm going to say this out loud. The idea that both parents had to work was, I think that did some interesting things to
Hmm.
families. And, there's a chain of thought or uh, that says, well, it's necessary, right?
Hmm.
And then there's another camp that says, well, actually, women were told, usually by other women, you really should go out and get a job. What are you doing? Where's your identity? I've been asked that by women.
Hmm.
Never been asked that by men, ever. I mean, but the women are all over that. Where's your identity? And because and I've talked to women who are my age or older than I am, who are so worried about retiring. They don't know what they're going to do. They honestly don't know what their identity will be.
Hmm.
And so, are we talking about a situation? I mean, when back in the early 70s and mid 70s, was it the case that women needed to go into the workforce to support families, to help support families? Or was it the case that they were told they needed to do that in order to have an identity because being a stay at home mom was just frowned upon or starting to
Hmm.
be frowned upon? And and then of course look what happened. You don't nobody has the time for the kids that they had, uh, you know a generation ago or a couple of generations ago. And I think that's a shame, and I think that's one of the things that changed as well. um,
Hmm.
because like with the trades, we started the supervaluation of, my job as a human resources manager, or an electrician, or an engineer or whatever in XYZ company, and then we devalued the stay-at-home mom
Hmm.
or stay-at-home dad. I mean, it was just a lot more rare. But why did we do that? Why did we as a culture say that everybody needed to do the same thing, and then also like split all the home stuff, which there's never really any time for when you are both up at 6 a.m. and home at 6 p.m. because
Hmm.
9 to 5 doesn't exist anymore.
No.
I mean, obviously, post COVID and stuff, it's people really finally came around to understanding that no, you don't actually have to be in a chair behind a desk for 40 or 45 hours a week. That was a long time coming, but I think that I'm trying to say this in a way that it doesn't make it sound like women should not work or women should stay home, because that's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm saying at all.
I think this is a perfect example of the sort of trap of calling someone a Stepford wife. Because people seem to I was watching this terrific video about the history of the movie, The Stepford Wives, and it's a way of effectively shaming a high productive, high high status homemaker.
Are you talking about,
What'd you
are you
say?
talking about Ira Levin's book?
Yeah, the Stepford Wives.
Yeah,
The
yeah, I
in
know.
the in the book, the men are the villains, but when we apply the the moniker today, it's directed at women who don't want to work.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. The trad wife, I mean, there's a lot of disdain. Yes, I completely agree with you. And there were two movies, there was the one the first one that was much more closer to the book, and then there was that dumb
Yeah.
one with Glenn Close, which is terrible. Um,
And
but
Kathy Bates, I think.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're right. You're right. It was obviously not a choice made by the women in Stepford. It was a choice made by the men.
Hmm.
And that was bad. Of course, I think people also kind of misremember that that's not really life what was like everywhere in the 50s, in the 60s, in the early 70s, right? I mean, and I do expect that there are probably some younger people now who look at that time, they can't, I mean, and they imagine that women were really, really oppressed. And I never got that idea as a kid growing up in a just sort of middle class bedroom community of New York City with, where everybody on the street was kind of the same age. Their kids were the same age. They played kickball, until the street lights came on. Um, and most of with a few exceptions, most of the dads were the ones who worked, and most of the women were stay at home moms. And I never really got the idea that this was somehow a terrible thing.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm concerned because either I'm looking at it through rose-colored glasses, or and I could be wrong, or there's something now going on now that is in fact much more troubling. And
Hmm.
I think it is troubling, because I think that's why there's a Dadlit podcast. I think that's
Yeah.
why we're these things. I don't think we would have been talking about these things. I don't think we would have been talking about them 50 years ago. I think
Hmm.
we would, it would have been like, so what books you read? Oh yeah, you read Jaws? Let's talk about Jaws. And but we'd be talking about the book. We wouldn't be talking about the roles of the men and women
Hmm.
necessarily. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that might be
About the state of, well, the literary field as it exists today, and this is not from the indie standpoint, because the indies do whatever they want. Um, but one of the reasons why the Dadlit Pod exists is because men find it really hard to find books they're interested in new bookstores that are not quote unquote classics, right? They all read the
Mhm.
same like nine books that can be found in any bookstore. But
Right?
finding modern books about dads, or that are fun or relevant or engaging for dads, just in physical spaces, is just not happening. It's it's Tolkien, King, that set, but
Sure. Yeah.
like
Tom Clancy, who
Tom Clancy, yes, the
still right,
dadlit.
the Deadlit.
Yes, the fathers of dadlit. Um,
um,
so yeah, and I think it's a struggle, and it's also very frustrating, from for a lot of authors. And at the same time, I think a lot of men who tend to be bigger believers in markets and tend to have more faith in markets also recognize that the money is with books for women. The
yeah,
money is with and serving um, women, but the other side of that is uh, a feeling of kind of being left out of the market by male
sure.
authors, and a feeling of being left out of the market for male readers. They end up just rereading the same thing over and over again.
Well,
So
and which brings to this idea of, the publishing industry as a whole. I mean, most literary agents are women. Most editors are women. Most editorial assistants and junior publicity and marketing assistants, all that stuff are women, young women.
librarians
The
as well.
librarians, right? The librarians are women. Book bloggers are women.
Yeah.
And then the readers are women. So yeah, I mean, and we do have to look at the facts of the market. You don't have to have
Yeah.
faith in the market. The market is what it is. It is. I do wonder, however, if the market is a natural market or whether it's engineered.
Yeah, I mean, Krista McTiernan explained what her thoughts on this to me, and I thought they were really interesting, where she said that the big five publishing houses are, to a large extent, ESG entities, environmental,
Uh,
social, and government.
sure. I know what it is, Jeeves.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure the listeners know.
No,
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
yeah. And um and I think she's right. I think that a lot of it, I mean, first of all, librarians are purchasing a very substantial portion of the book. Schools are purchasing substantial portions of the book. And there is an element of ideological capture that very clearly, um, very clearly is influencing what gets bought and published at that elite level.
Right.
So, you know, Lionel Shriver can break through that because she's a big name and they know they'll sell books. But young Lionel Shriver's not selling her
No,
new book to any publishing house.
no,
Uh,
not at all. Lionel, I know Lionel personally, and yeah, she's very safe. Um,
yes, yeah.
I mean, her career is very safe. She's got a new book coming out about immigration, and I think there was some pre-publication publicity about where she said, "Oh, this might finally get me canceled or something." That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
It's just not. And she's also not Stephen King though, right? I mean, she's
Yes.
not at the James Patterson, Lee Child. It's more literary fiction. If you talk to a random person, they're going to know we need to talk about Kevin,
Mhm.
and they'll probably know Mania because of the social contagion aspect. But most people I know could not name another book of hers.
Mm.
So I don't know how much she sells. I mean, I hope it's a lot, but
Well,
I just don't know. I don't have an idea of that. Whereas, so, but I agree that she's safe,
yeah.
and she's a damned fine writer,
Mhm.
and she's in a niche kind of a market because what she writes is not, and this is, I think, ties in with why people can't name a lot of her titles, because it's not commercial fiction.
Mhm.
It's literary fiction, but it's not navel gazing literary
Yeah.
fiction, right? I mean, and there's a message there, and the characters are very relatable, and aside from that, like, whackingly huge active vocabulary that this woman has, which can make her books a little bit difficult to absorb, right? I mean, you're like, what's that word?
Mhm.
So, yeah, so she's fine, but you're right. There's the young Lionel, no. The young guy, no. It's I mean, sorry, every time I meet a guy, I have a writer friend here in Querétaro who's in Spain, who's American, and he's a fine, fine, fine writer. And and I told him, I said, your only hope is to basically, trade your name, and instead of Charlie, you got to be Charlotte.
Yeah.
That's it. That's then you'll get published
Yeah,
in a new.
it's 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 interesting because I hear this a lot, and I worry that because there's another thing going on, right? There's uh two diverging realities that smart people exist in. There's what I call like progressive reality, and then like conservative reality. And
Yeah, but
what
there's only one reality.
well, there's only one reality,
Well,
but
you're talking about perceptions.
perceptions, yes. When
Yes.
I have a conversation with friends and family up in Boston, they their focus in their existence, the very existence of the world as they articulate it to me is different from like the things they're worried about are different. Their view of law and events and what they're focused on. And it's completely different from what I experience. And I live with a public health professional who's fairly liberal. And it's almost like there are two diverging realities. And in the literary sphere, what we should be working on is because we talk about empathy, right? Why are books better? Because you get a vision inside someone's head and you can develop empathy for them.
Right.
If you're not publishing the vision of a diverse range of thought, how can two groups have empathy for each other? And when it becomes so captured where books become almost sort of parodies, how do you how do you then convince someone to read a different viewpoint? And so that's something that you clearly have dedicated a lot of your writing to.
Different viewpoints.
Well, not just different viewpoints, but exploring, trying to cross boundaries of social milieu.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't fit well in a box.
Mhm.
And they Vox created a sort of a box with
Mhm.
the way it was marketed and publicized and stuff. But there's a lot of things that were said about Vox that are not me at all.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, nobody back in 2017 or 18 thought that Dalcher was a libertarian and an objectivist. Um, you know, a not a feminist. I don't even know what that word means, really. I just don't. And again, I don't want people to be oppressed based on their sex or any other characteristic. But that's a whole different thing than this feminist business, which I really just have never in my life understood well. And now we've
Mhm.
got waves, so it gets even more complicated. But yeah, nobody thought that. I mean, nobody would have pegged me for that. They thought I was a Democrat and an uber feminist, and rah 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 with the Me Too movement, and and not a fan of Ayn Rand. So yeah, wasn't that a shock? Whoops.
I too am a big fan of Ayn Rand. Though I I like objectivism. I think it's very relevant and very interesting. And my best
It's
friend has written for the Objective Standard, and I think she is misunderstood. Uh, what she was effectively articulating with her books um, was both a reaction to what she saw. No surprise then, you being a Rand fan, that you write about the economic end of the world. Uh, and I think that people are, should absolutely take the time to think about what she says instead of dismissing it.
well,
It,
because they don't know. They just think, cruel woman,
yes,
horrible person, and then there's that weird social security thing. No, it was for money, really. I mean, so
yeah,
it's okay to take that back, honey. And very, very there. Then there's that meme about Tolkien and
yes,
Scruggs, right? One of them has orcs or whatever they are.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, but I think very few people
Those
have
are
a
well,
time really kind of looking at this and how it relates to Aristotelian ideals, Aristotelian philosophy. I mean, now, did some people go a little too far? Sure. Was there a great big split in objectivism? When the Ayn Rand Institute, the Californians, and then the other ones, went one way? Sure. Is there some sense of you will do it this way, or you can't be one of us? Absolutely.
yeah,
That's but let's not judge the whole framework, philosophical framework, based on the fact that a few people went a little bit mad
yeah.
along the way.
Well, and fortunately, well, unfortunately, the the center of focus on Ukraine has reintroduced the Ukrainian famine to people's awareness, though I don't think they understand exactly why that is important to understanding Rand and Randian philosophy. Um, I always, I think the best book on this topic is a book called Tombstone, which is the about Mao and the great famines in China in the middle of the century, which is also a wonderful book.
No, good.
Which,
That up.
yes, and to that extent, um, people just don't seem to understand that when you have a Mamdani-esque socialist takeover, things stop working and people perish.
Yeah, everything's free. Everything's going to be free.
Everything's free.
Be great. And this is but I think so to go back to what you were saying about these two different realities, which really are
That's
two.
a perfect example. Yeah.
It is a perfect example, right? Because there's only one reality, and yet we've got these two groups, and we're so polarized. And I think this is another massive difference between, let's say, now and 1957, or
Yeah.
now and 1977. Um, this I mean, the great Rand quote is, there contradictions do not exist,
Yeah.
right? If you find a contradiction, then check your premises, and one of them will be wrong. And yet, for some reason, we are living in a place where the people who are on this side and the people who are on this side, are one saying A and the other one is saying B, and they're absolutely convinced that they're correct, and they don't see the problem.
Yeah.
A can't be B. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how this is going to all pan out, but I don't think it looks so great for the future, unfortunately. But going back to dads and dadlit, I think this is great what you're doing, I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't have any answers for you, except that I do sense that we're in a different time
Mhm.
than we once were. And I sense, and I, knowing a little bit about the publishing industry, and of course, I think Kristen McKiernan was absolutely bang on right with respect to, even if they're not looking for ESG points, they've internalized that ESG point psychology, that way of being. We must do these things to show the world how wonderful we are. And really, their job should be simply finding good books and publishing them.
Mhm.
That should be their job, and it's not. I think they have some of the people involved in it have a lot of hubris, in the sense that they believe that they can change the world, and really it's just a business.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the big authors can write anything they want, so because they make money, and then with all of that money from, you know name an author. I mean, they might actually, not like the person at all, but if it makes enough money, then they can afford to spend that money on all of these other sorts of, social engineering programs. And unfortunately, uh, dads reading that's reading in front of their kids and kind of modeling this, hey, reading is really great and it's not just for chicks. you know that that doesn't appear to be one of the things that they want to spend any excess money on, and I think that's a damn shame.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm here is trying to suss it out, um, and try and sell some books for people. Which, speaking of, you told me that The Sentence is your most recent book, and it features a dad,
It does feature a dad.
and it is about the death penalty, and it is about false conviction.
Right, and yeah, and and how do I mean, wrongful conviction, it can be remedied in a way, as you'll know, based on, the work that your dad does. Generally speaking, the DNA discovered in the, the case, it's the victim, or the offender, the incarcerated offender is exonerated, and hey, here's some money for all of those years that we robbed you. It's not very much.
Yeah.
In fact, it's pretty darn paltry. But it's still a remedy. And then there's another kind of punishment that is not fixable, and that is death. Death
Mhm.
is different. Um, Death is unique. Death is permanent, and there is no going back. And if you get that wrong, whoa, Nelly, what do we do then? So I tweaked reality a little bit. I'll be interested in hearing from you and your dad about the criminal law aspects of this. But I had to tweak reality a little bit because I had to create a situation where uh, a prosecutor would not have immunity
Mhm.
if he or she asked for the death penalty, and then later on new evidence was found that exonerated the executed. All right.
Mhm.
So that's I had to I had to do that because I needed to look, but not really about the mechanisms. It's about a prosecutor, and it's about a guy on death row, and she's sure he did it, and he appears from time to time, speaking in the first person about his job, about his family. He's got a 6-year-old boy. He's very blue collar, kind of, southern guy. Auto mechanic, good one. Loyal, good dad, good husband, good guy.
Mhm.
But he killed someone. Or
So
that.
we believe.
So we believe. And I loved writing him. I just, I just got into this. I look forward to writing those scenes even more than writing the other main character, the female prosecutor's scenes, because it was just such a different kind of a voice. And I think that I'm not asking you to buy my book. You can get it from the library. But I really think that I hope that you and some of your other dad readers have a look at it, because I think you'll like how I wrote this guy. And I think it would give you some things to talk about in terms of what kinds of things dads do. What did dads bring to the world? What sacrifices do dads make?
Mhm.
For the sake of the people they love. It was I find it powerful, if I do say so myself.
Well, Christina, thank you so much for coming on the Dad Lit Pod. That's Christina Dalcher. You can go out and buy her book, The Sentence, which is Dad Lit, or Femlandia, which is Dad Lit. You can also obviously check out Vox, and you have another book as well, right?
I do. The second book was Masterclass in the US, or Q, just the letter Q as in quotient in the
Mhm.
UK. And it features a dad as well. He's just, he's not everybody's favorite dad. That's about pressure put on kids to constantly excel. It's in terms of academic performance, and so it ventures quite a bit into eugenics, and I did a lot of research on the American eugenics movement.
Mhm. Based
Uh,
out of Harvard.
and I mean, it's so frightening how few people know about this.
Yep.
So so that's an interesting read as well. And thanks for having me on the pod.
Well, thank you for coming on. This has been an episode of the Dad Lit Pod. Go out and buy books by Christina Dalcher.
All right.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit Pod.